Episode 19 begins at the Black Pyramid, so in the Tomb Chamber we have Mumm-ra and his canine sidekick, Mumm-ra. Now you're probably wondering, what is Mumm-ra so enthusiastic about? Well, he pleaded his case with his canine pal that the day is very special. And why is that? Because according to Mumm-ra, it's a moment of a lifetime that he's been waiting for 1,000 years. So what Mumm-ra and his canine sidekick did is that they went over to the inscription on the wall that it tells about the solar eclipse. Long story short, Mumm-ra explains to his canine pal that the solar eclipse itself is very important because it happens only every 100 years on Third Earth. Even better, according to Mumm-ra, he thought, why not use the spell to cast on that solar eclipse on that particular day itself until it happens again the next 100 years? So you know what this means? That means Mumm-ra has a plan, as always, as any bad guy would do. And so he told his canine pal that the solar eclipse is happening right this minute, and he's going to use it as the day, as he says, the day of decay. So, as Mumm-ra says, as the part of the plan, it starts with everything falling apart, including the Kessler itself. But not just that, according to Mumm-ra, he'll list both the mutants and the lunatics, but that's not all. According to Mumm-ra, he even says that at the end of the day, his dominion as his is can never be questioned in any way. And why is that? Because as anyone would tell you, it's all part of the plan. So, Mumm-ra didn't hesitate to get the plan underway. And how, you may ask? Well, as always, he's asking his agent spirits of evil for a favor. Now, the favor for Mumm-ra from the spirits of evil was simply this, was to give him the special kind of power to use the solar eclipse as the day of decay against Kessler and everything else. The long story short, after Mumm-ra's sage and spirits of evil had proceeded to do just that, meanwhile at Cat's lair, in the control room we have Lino and Panther, and they're busy replacing and fixing in the control room. So far everything was fine, or so they thought. The good news, he just told Lionel there's a couple of valves for him to check and then they're finished for the day. Then before you know it, what Lionel did is that he turned on the telescreen in the control room, and what he saw was unbelievable. A moon that is shining brightly than the sun. Now Lionel finds this really weird. Even though Panthro agrees with Lionel, and then he tells him, if you think that's weird, wait till you see the moon that's covering over the sun when it becomes an eclipse later, he said. Meanwhile, in the Black Pyramid's tomb chamber, Mumm-ra was watching it happen in his cauldron, and so is his canine sidekick, Mumm-ra. But Mumm-ra is getting really impatient, and he says, what's taking so long? Let the eclipse happen and the disintegration begin, he said to himself. He continues to look at it in a cauldron as the moon continues to get closer and closer to the sun until finally back at Kessler it actually happened. The solar eclipse, just like what Mumm-ra said. Inside of the lair were Chitara and Tigra. They have never seen an eclipse like it before, but it's the first time they witnessed it. Tara was in awe, and she just made a compliment on how beautiful the eclipse looked. Even though Tigra agrees, but then suddenly lightning appeared out of nowhere and thought, this is weird, a lightning in the middle of the eclipse. Now he thought it might be a disturbance somehow. Later, back at the Black Pyramid's tomb chamber with Mumm-ra and his canine psychic, now you can tell that Mumm-ra is very astonishingly pleased. He said that the eclipse is happening just the way it's planned. Long story short, back at the Kessler's control room, Panther was about to finish up with the valves. But unfortunately, he finds one in his hand and he finds this really weird. So he told Lionel for some unknown reason he just couldn't understand why the valves all of a sudden are falling apart when they were just replaced. Long story short, back with Lionel, by the time he looked up, he saw something falling from up above, but luckily he moved out of the way. And as for Panthro, don't worry, he's fine. Also, the good news, Panthro had landed on the ground intact. And so he was looking puzzled, and he said to Lionel that he had no idea how it happened and why it happened. He also found it weird that the lift gear that he just checked 2 hours ago seems to be working fine, but now it's not. And suddenly Lionel just heard a distress call, and he, however, by surprise just got a transmission, and it's coming from the Burble Village. Story short, meanwhile at the Burble Village, and the reason why the Burbles needed the Thundercats' help, although we didn't see it, but it is confirmed, is because Monkey and Jackalman of the mutants were attacking them in a couple of sky cutters, forcing the Burbles to flee. And then, long story short, as the mutants were busy attacking the village, that's when Jackalman had pleaded his case to Monkey. He said this should get the Thundercats' attention, and if Mumm-ra's hunch is correct, they, being Monkey and Jackalman, will have the opportunity to destroy the Thunder Tank itself by the time that the Thundercats arrive. Long story short, while the attack is going on outside, Rover Bill, the leader of the Burbles, is trying to contact the Thundercats, asking them to hurry up and rescue them because the mutants are attacking them. Meanwhile, back at Cat's lair after Lionel got his claw shield and his sword, he meets up with Panthro and said that they had to get to the Burble village because Roberville said that he needed them. But on the way, they bumped into Chitara and Tigra. So Chitara asked Lionel, "What's going on?" Panthro went first to explain to Chitara and Tigra that the mutants are attacking the Burble village and they must get there right away. In the meantime, Lionel suggested for both Chitara and Tigra to stay behind at Ket's lair. Before heading off, he told Tigra and Chitara that he'll contact them if they needed any help. And so both Panthro and Lionel head off in one direction, while Chitara and Tigra head off in the other direction. So with Lionel and Panthro in the Thunder Tank, they're now on their way to the Burble Village. In the meantime, Chitara and Tigra are now in the control room. When Tigra showed up to meet up with Chitara, she told him that there's a problem with the drawbridge and it's not working. So Tigra was asking Chitara how could this be possible because he said that the drawbridge was checked out just the day before. Back with Lionel and Panthro in the Thunder Tank, they're still on their way to the Burble Village when something went wrong with the Thunder Tank. When Lionel confirmed his suspicion with Panthro to tell him, "I thought you fixed it," and Panthro said that he did. Then Panthro told Lionel that for some reason that the Thunder Tank's been acting really weird lately. But then he spotted a couple of sky cutters up ahead that's flying towards them. Jackalman and Monkey and a couple of sky cutters coming towards the Thunder Tank. "Welcome to the party," Jackalman said, "and to coin a phrase, your farewell party." What the sky cutters did is that they are attacking the Thunder Tank, but luckily the sky cutters missed the Thunder Tank. So Panthro, who's driving it, has an idea. They can use the defense missiles. So that's exactly what the Thunder Tank did. For the defense missiles, they didn't do a thing, and Monkey was very surprised. So after a long story short, Monkey had pleaded a case to the Thundercats saying they should do better than that in order to attack. Back in the Thunder Tank, since the defense missiles didn't work, Solana suggested to Panther to try some scatter shots instead, so that's what he did. He started attacking first, and then the Thundercats attacked back. But there's a problem. The scatter shot didn't work either. Story short, Panther just told Lionel that there's a problem with the weapon systems in the Thunder Tank, and they have been shot all of a sudden. And of course, Panther suggested that they should run for it, or else the Thunder Tank itself will be done for. But then Lionel told Panther that there's a tunnel up ahead. Good news for the Thunder Tank, it manages to make it inside. Back with the Sky Cutters, they had Strackham and the monkey, and what they did is that they fired at the cliff to have rocks falling on one side of the tunnel. So Jackaman pleaded his case with them trapped inside, so all they had to do is just go around the other end where they'd be waiting for them. Back with the Thunder Tank that's still in the tunnel that has both Lionel and Panthro in it, but then bad news, the Thunder Tank was stalling on them according to Panthro, but even worse news, there's Jackalman and Monkey in at the end of the tunnel waiting for them. Also, in Panthro's case, he just told Lionel that the mutants are getting really impatient, and he's not kidding. So what he's going to do is he's going to try to boost up the Thunder Tank while the mutants, Jackalman and Monkey, who are still waiting outside, and Monkey went first to plead his case to Jackalman to say that they're done for, or so they thought. So by the time that Good News Panther got the Thunder Tank started, and so by the time that the mutants saw it coming, they started to run away. Jackalman hid in the bushes as both the mutants saw the tank pass them by. The Thunder Tank, it had finally arrived at the Burble village. But on the way there, that's when Lionel told Panther to slow the tank down since the mutants are not following them anymore. But Panther said that there's a problem. He couldn't slow it down. Also, according to Panther, that for some reason the Thunder Tanks just picked up speed and is out of control. Quick, Panther, turn, turn! But he couldn't do that. Well, good news, the Thundercats had arrived at the Burble Village, but the bad news, Panther now realizes that there's no way he can slow the tank down. That's not bad enough. Both Lionel and Panthro couldn't open the hatch because it got stuck for some reason. And things got even worse when, according to Panthro, that themselves, and including the tank itself, are going to head towards the ravine. Just when things are about to look even worse, guess what the tank did? Well, luckily it manages to make it over to the ravine, and somehow intact. And then later it crashed into a tree. Roberville, the leader of the Burbles, had just crossed the bridge and saw what had happened. He asked Panther and Lionel, "Are you two okay?" Well, good news. Lionel just told Roberville, the leader of the Burbles, that he and Panther are fine. And now Lionel is asking Panther, how come the Thunder Tank went out of control all of a sudden? I wish I knew, Panther said, but I'm going to find out what's going on, he suggested. So he goes to the back, and what he saw was shocking. He finally discovered that the mechanizer for the tank had been shot. No wonder the tank malfunctioned the way it did. And then he told Lionel, you know something, you may say it's crazy, but I think something weird is going on here. So in Panthro's case, what he's telling Lionel that all the equipments are failing, even though he and the Thundercats themselves had checked them already. Then, long story short, Robert Bill, the leader of the Burbles, just told the Thundercats, maybe we can help with that, he suggested. Even better, he said that he can fix up the Thunder Tank with Panthro. Good idea, Lionel said. So, Lionel not only thanked Robert Bill for all the assistance that he needs, he suggested to stay with Panthro and the Thunder Tank. In the meantime, Lionel can contact the lair so that Tiger and Chitara can bring the parts from the Feline along. Lionel also suggested that they can look for some answers, and Panthro agrees. Later, back at Cat's Lair, there's Chitara and Tigra. For some unknown reason, don't ask me why, but it is confirmed that the head of the lair just stopped scanning all of a sudden, and yet Chitara couldn't figure out why it's doing it. And Tigra told Chitara, if you think that's strange, look at these rotators inside the head. They look like they haven't been changed for years, he said. Then, long story short, Tiger and Chitara just felt something attacking the lair from below. It's the Lunatacker. Back with Chitara and Tiger on the head of the lair. Now, Chitara was asking Tiger, how did the Lunatacks get there without the alarm going off? Back with the Lunatacker, oh, speaking of which, inside were Tugmug and Red Eye. So after a long story short, Red Eye had pleaded his case with Tugboat to say, what do you say we knocked him down? And so that's what the Lunatecker did. It attacked on Tigra and Chitara that are still on the head. Bad news for Chitara, the effects of the attack caused her to fall, but not if Tiger could do something about it, so that's what he did. He uses his bullet whip to create a net for her, and luckily he saves her. And good news for Chitara, she landed on the ground intact. After that, Tiger joins up with her. He not only gets the things from her, but he tells her that he has a plan to get the Lunatecker away from the lair. So what Tiger and Chitara did is that by the time they ran off, they headed straight to the woods. Lunatecker, that's when Tugmug told Red Eye that there's no way they're getting away, so the Lunatecker decided to pursue them. Back with Tiger and Chitara, by the time they arrived at the woods, that's when Chitara suggested that they should split up so that they can meet back at the lair later to find out what's going on. So that's what they did. But they're not the only ones who decided to split up. The Lunatics are doing the same. So Tugmug suggested to the Red Eye that he can handle Tigra while he, Tugmug, can handle Chitara. So the Lunatics split up too. With Tigra, who's still running deeper and deeper into the woods. So when he stopped, one of the first things he did what any Thundercat would do, make himself invisible. But what he doesn't even realize is that he was spotted by Red Eye thanks to his infrared. Back with Red Eye, he knows what to do. He throws the disc at Tigra thanks to his infrared. Long story short, when Red Eye found out that he missed, but then out of nowhere, here comes Tiger's whip that just destroyed the disc, and that disrupted Red Eye's infrared. So thanks to Tiger taking care of Red Eye, he runs up to meet up with Chitara. Oh, speaking of Chitara, back with her, she's now being pursued by Tugmug of the Lunatics. When she suddenly stopped, she says to herself that these are sinking sands, so she has to come up with a plan quick, and so she did. Back with Tugmug, he was busy looking for Chitara everywhere. At first he couldn't find her, but then by surprise, he suddenly saw Chitara run past him by saying to him, quote, "You're off your league." So that destruction plan worked, so Tugmug went to pursue her. So after a long story short, Tugmug had pleaded a case to Chitara, saying that there's no way that she can outrun him. So when Chitara went back to the Seeking Sands, covered with leaves of course, she uses her baton to jump over it, and by the time that Tugmug comes over what looked like a bridge, or so he thought, that's when he should have realized right then that he fell right into the Sinking Sands. So Chitara's plan worked. Now that Tugbook's taken care of thanks to Chitara. Oh, by the way, I made a slip up. That was mud he was stuck in and not the sand, so that's my bad. So after she runs to catch up with Tigra, she says that sadly that Mud won't be holding Tugbook for very long. Although Tigra agrees and says it'll be a matter of time before Red Eye returns his pursuit with him. So Tigra told Chitara, we gotta get back to the lair right away, and we must do what we can to defend it. So they head off. Later, back at the Burble village, Lionel tries to contact the cat's lair, but he had no such luck. That's because the lion was somehow dead. Back with Chitara and Tigra, they're now in the cat's lair's control room. They're not having any luck contacting the Burble village either. That was until the Lunaticker came back and attacked the lair again, just like it did before. Long story short, back with Lionel at the Burble village, his sword just told him that there's a problem back at Cat's Lair. So, looking through the sword's eye, just like what any good guy would do, that's what Lionel did. And that's when he realizes that the Lunaticker's attacking the lair. After that, Lionel as always has a hunch, although there is no logical explanation of why things are happening. First the lair's falling apart, then the thunder tank, and now he realizes that there must be something or someone that's doing it, and that someone Happens to be Mumm-ra himself, and why is that? Because it was all part of the plan. Only one thing for Lionel to do, and that is to stop Mumm-ra's plan. And how? Well, according to Lionel, he has to pay him a visit at the Black Pyramid to break the spell. Back at the Kessler's control room, things didn't look so good. Chitara was busy putting out the fire while Tiger was busy setting up the defense system, but he tells her that he's not so sure how long it's going to hold. Chitara tells Tiger, I just hope that it does because the Lunatics may be breaking through at any time. Meanwhile, back with Lionel, he had finally arrived at the Black Pyramid. By the time that Lionel went into the tomb chamber, he finds it weird that it was empty. He couldn't find Mumm-ra anywhere. Then suddenly, Lionel's sword has guided him to the inscription on the side of the wall. Now remember, that's the same inscription that Mumm-ra was looking at. So even though Lionel had no idea what the inscription means, to investigate further, he needed an answer. From where else? His sword, of course. So thanks to Lionel's sword, the inscription just told Lionel what it means. It said, quote, an evil spell will cast on one eclipse until it happens in the next eclipse, which happens in the next 100 years. Lionel should have known. It was all part of Mumm-ra's plan. That's why he needed the eclipse to cast upon as, quote, the day of decay. That's why everything is falling apart. Then Lionel just heard a voice from behind that says, that's correct, Lionel. This day of decay, which is my day of decay, and it is about to be ending right this minute, he said. In other words, according to what Mumm-ra told Lionel, that he has to wait 100 years for his spell to be broken. So long story short, after Lionel had told Mumm-ra that we'll just see about that, back at the Kessler's control room, everything started to fall apart in the control room. And that's because Chitara just told Tiger the bad news that the Lunatics had broken inside. So Tugmug and Red-Eye had entered the main hallway of the lair. So Red-Eye had pleaded his case with Tugmug to say that he'll have to disarm the defense shield itself. Well, that happens, according to what he says, that they'll have the Thundercats surround it. So that's what Red-Eye did. So now with the defense shield being disarmed, the Lunatics are on their way to the control room, both Tugmug and Red-Eye. But before they can even break down the door, that's when Tugmug and Red-Eye fell through the floor. That's because the lair is falling apart, thanks to Mumm-ra's spell. As a matter of fact, things got even worse when the lair keeps deteriorating by the minute. Back with Lionel at the Black Pyramid, he has a plan. And by how? He figured if Mumm-ra should create an eclipse, then so should he. So he did what any good guy would do. As always, he projected a Thundercat signal from his sword. He figured he can use that to break the spell, of course. First two Thundercats to see the signal first were Chitara and Tigra, and they're stuck at the lair at the moment that is completely fallen apart. Back at the Burble village, Panthro has no luck fixing the Thunder Tank. He too saw the signal, so he told Rover Bill, the leader of the Burbles, that they must find a way to fix the tank somehow. Lionel at the Black Pyramid, that's when he heard a voice when he looked over his shoulder. Mumm-ra just told him to give it up because he said in his case that there's no way that Lionel's sword is going to help. And there's no way that any Thundercat signal is going to break the spell. Or so that's what Mumm-ra thought. Mumm-ra did. He uses his power on Lionel. So, back with Lionel still holding his sword, trying to attempt to break the spell thanks to the Thundercat signal from the sword, he tells himself that there's no way he's giving up, and he's not going to give in either. Guess what Lionel did? He uses his claw shield to repel Mumm-ra's power back at him, and once that's finished, Lionel did what any good guy would do. He used the Thundercat signal to create his own eclipse, so he did. So instead of the day of decay that Mumm-ra had wanted, Thanks to Lionel, he created his own day, the day of restoration. So yes, you've heard right. Thanks to Lionel and the Thundercat signal to create his own eclipse, not only is the cat's lair being restored, but the Thunder Tank is being restored too. So back with Lionel at the Black Pyramid, he tells Mumm-ra, too bad. It looks like you have to wait the next 100 years for your second chance. So yes, it's true. Thanks to Lionel and of course the Thundercats signal to create his own eclipse. Oh, and as for the Lunatics, Red Eye and Tugbug, well, they got into the Lunataker to head back to Sky Tomb. So once again, Mumm-ra's plan backfired. So back at the Kessler's control room, that's when Lionel comes in to tell Chitara, Tigra, and Panther that the Foundation has been checked out and there is no signs of any structural damage. After hearing the good news, that's when Tigra and Chitara said that even better, the Lair's communication systems are working again, and so were the drawbridge and everything else. So Lionel told his friends that Mumm-ra's magic has done them a lot of good instead of a lot of harm, and that they should thank him next time they go back to the Black Pyramid. So Lionel wanted to know from Panther, where is Snarf anyway? Well, according to Panther, he said that after a day like today, Snarf's on his way with some tea, or so that's the case. But then the Thundercats heard a crash in the hallway, so Panthro, Chitara, Tigra, and Lionel went to see what was going on. So when Lionel approached Snarf, he asked, what happened? Are you okay? Don't worry, he's fine. So what Lionel wanted to know from Snarf, did anything break? Well, other than my pride, Snarf said, just a couple of teacups and the entire tea set, he said. Chitara has her turn to plead her case to say, I thought that Mumm-ra was up to his old tricks. Well, even if he did, Snarf said, when it's his turn, he says, unless, of course, it's a clumsiness curse to say the least, Snarf said. So yes, you've heard right. The Thundercats won the day once again. And that ends episode 19.